Most app founders finish building their app, they start looking around at everyone else and what they're doing, and they're realizing that they're all doing the same thing. Everyone seems to be running UGC at max scale in the consumer app space, specifically these AI apps, Turbo, Quitter, Cal AI, and as an app founder yourself, you're thinking like, how can I operate at a scale as massive as them? And the answer is you don't. My name is Amir, and 2 years ago, I took my own consumer app past 10K MRR, and then used those same systems with other founders at a larger scale. In this video, I'm gonna show you the exact systems we actually implemented for this edtech startup a couple months ago to take them to their first $100,000 month. You're watching all these AI native apps blow up and they're pumping huge amounts of organic UGC, and naturally, you're gonna think that that's a system you need to use to scale your own consumer app. Apps like Quitter, Turbo AI, Cal AI, who Cal AI has actually exited for millions of dollars. They're all running the exact same UGC framework. Literally hundreds and hundreds of creators posting different formats every single day, some of them going viral. But what separates these brands from your consumer app looking to make its first $10,000 a month is scale. The problem with scale in early stage consumer apps is conversion. We all know how important your onboarding and your conversion rates are as a mobile app. And running these campaigns before you have your conversion rates locked down is a huge mistake. It's actually the mistake that we made at our startup, and I'm gonna show you a little bit more about that later. And the only thing worse than not having your conversion rates optimized before you start scaling spend is actually not knowing the right messaging. Us founders know that it isn't really about the product anymore. Like, you could pretty much make anything that you want in terms of software companies. The only difference is your positioning and how you package it. So knowing this, how do we find the highest leverage positioning for our app before we spend money, not after? So what's wrong with these UGC campaigns? Like, these brands are all running them, it should work, right? Well, the issue is your attribution, especially earlier on. You don't actually know what works. So let's say that you post your first 3 UGC videos or 4 UGC videos. I mean, at this point, the space is pretty competitive, so you're probably gonna be doing 20 or 30. You post a couple of videos and you get some subscribers, maybe some trials. The caveat now is like, where did these subscribers come from? And attribution tools are getting better and better, so this hopefully should solve itself eventually, but right now, there's no way to tell consistently where your users are coming from if you're posting multiple organic posts per day. That's the first reason why locking down organic UGC is a little bit difficult in the start. And the second reason is the lack of a CTA. So a lot of you guys might not have run ads before and don't know that every single ad has a CTA. On average, you get an ad on Instagram every 3 scrolls. On each ad, there is a CTA. Some of them look like this, some of them are in the comments. So with organic posts, you're limited to just showing them the brand name or making them comment. The easiest way to imagine this is to look back at yourself. Usually, when you see a product on TikTok or Instagram, majority of the time it instills curiosity. Creative's job is to just make you click. The creative's job is never to convince you throughout the whole buyer journey, right? That's what your app store page is for. Creative is just to make you click. So knowing that, like, let's say you are you curious enough to take the name of the app or the web app and go to Google, look it up, find the app store listing, go to the app store listing and then download? Probably not. Like, the creative has to be very, very good for that to happen. It is difficult to find winning concepts through organic like this because of the lack of CTA. And platforms like TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, it is getting increasingly easier to collect these leads organically. For example, you guys have probably seen a lot of videos on TikTok and Instagram asking people to comment certain keywords, and they send them an automation in the DMs with whatever they requested in the video. This is bringing organic content one step closer to ads. The social platforms know this, and they're controlling it. The majority of the revenue comes from ad dollars. So the last thing they're gonna do is make their product cannibalize their profits. So ads, whether you're on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, whatever platform you're on, will always have the highest percentage of conversion, because that's how these platforms make their money. So it seems like I've been shitting a lot on UGC, so I'm gonna take a step back here. UGC definitely works. You can definitely make a shitload of money with UGC campaigns at small scale and at large scale, but is it efficient? In my experience running a UGC campaign for this specific startup, which is in the edtech niche, hiring, briefing, managing, paying, it was an absolute shit show. We actually ended up spending over $35,000, and I don't even remember how much we made, probably like less than 10. And this isn't to say that UGC doesn't necessarily work, but it comes with so many other headaches that you don't get in paid advertising. When you think about marketing, forget the formats, like paid ads, organic, forget all those formats. Like, what is marketing at its core? Finding people specifically with your problem and providing them with the solution that you have for them. The highest leverage thing you can do as a founder, and this isn't only for software, this is for like e-com, local businesses, is to find the right messaging that actually captures your ideal audience. Yes, you could find this with alternate methods, like reaching out to people, organic posting. And if you're anything like me and you take your time seriously, then the main thing that I was focusing on was finding this right messaging as fast as possible. There's no better way to do this than to do ads. We can actually look at what the biggest consumer apps are doing right now. Let's go hop into Meta Ads Library. For those of you that don't know, this is where you can see everyone that's running ads on Meta. It's all public. We'll just check Cal AI. They actually have over 700 ads running right now. As you can see, they're testing multiple different angles, formats, creatives, or this Bible chat app that's running 1,000 ads that are doing $400,000 a month. And they launched just 2 years ago. You could also use TikTok ads library as well and Google Ads Transparency Center to check out startups. But the TikTok one is just horrible, but you can kind of get an idea of what startups are running. So what's the takeaway from this? Just burned $35,000 plus on UGC while we were running, about $200 a day, $300 a day in ads. We kind of came to a decision. We had a couple $100,000 left for marketing for that year because it ended around April, May, since that's when students usually go on their summer breaks. So we decided to just fuck it and just fully go into ads. The first thing that we did, which is probably what everyone else starts doing when they first run ads, is take our best performing UGC videos and just run them as Spark ads. And as you can see, we put quite a bit of spend behind these ads, and we ended up running like 30 of these. And while this was profitable at the beginning, we quickly realized that TikTok and Meta are two completely different platforms. Up until that time, most of the experience we had with larger budgets were all through Meta. This is like anything over $500 a day. And we were looking to actively increase the budget at the startup that we were at. But the problem was, when you increase your budget, the number one bottleneck is your creative. You need more creative to supply that growth. And the thing that we didn't realize was that you need nearly double the amount of creative on TikTok than you do on Meta. The reason this is the case is because on Meta, you have multiple different places that you could display creative, right? You have your stories, your feeds, your reels. What this means is it takes a lot longer for an ad to fatigue. Because on TikTok, there's only just a feed, which means that the same prospect might get your ad a lot more often on this platform than Instagram. And then your CPMs start to climb, things get expensive, and before you know it, you're not profitable anymore. So we had this issue with creative supply. We wanted to up the spend. We only had 2 to 3 months left, so we wanted to juice out as much as we can get out of exams. So we turned to the only engine that we've had till date, which is our UGC creators. And it didn't take long for us to realize that this was not sustainable. I'm aware that since that campaign, UGC prices have gone down significantly. We're paying creators now probably half of this. We're spending around $1,000 a day at the time, so we needed 18 creatives minimum to reach our bar at our hit rate. For those of you that don't know, your hit rate is equal to your winning creatives divided by total creatives tested. So this is technically the percentage chance that you have at getting a winning creative every time you test one. For everyone, this is different. So at $540 a day just for the videos, this is without any spend. This was clearly not sustainable. We started looking around for solutions. We went to multiple different UGC platforms like SideShift, Billio, to look for people that would do it for cheaper, and those people just sucked, so they were not an option. And we dabbled a little bit in clippers and commission-based work, but again, none of it was what we were looking for. But the one thing that did seem very hot at the time was AI UGC. Pigsfield, Arc ads, all these platforms were popping off at the time, so we were like, fuck it, we might as well give it a try. If you guys don't know, a concept is a persona, angle, and mechanism, and this is essentially how we're able to multiply creatives and scale our spend so fast. And using our internal software with a bunch of API keys to run copy, we were able to scale these concepts very, very fast. The one problem with this was that we were selling to an educated audience. So in edtech, we're selling to people that are between the ages of 16 to 26. And in this age group, this is probably the most tech-aware age group you're gonna find. These people were born in the AI era, so they understand pretty much everything about AI video, AI chat. And the last thing you wanna do in your advertising is be deceiving. People hate deception. So although this ad would work for people in their 50s, maybe even 40s, mapping it to a younger audience was probably our biggest regret. So at this point, we're completely lost. With our specific demographic of audience, it was very difficult to run profitable while paying upfront for UGC. But as the AI models continue to get better and better, there was one specific ad format that got more popular, and it's claymation. At this time, there was very few select e-com brands that were spending more than $1,000 a day running just purely claymation and animation based ads. And it's because the models just barely got good enough to where you could do this at scale. And you're probably thinking okay, if these AI avatars didn't work, why would you ever expect this to work? And the reason that's the case is because when you're making it abundantly obvious that you're using AI, the deception factor of advertising is completely at the door. The audience starts to actually care about what's being conveyed in the messaging of the advertisement because they're not worried about being tricked. It's abundantly obvious. So using this style of ad, we were able to multiply personas, angles, and mechanisms very easily in finding winning formats, winning messaging, and then spend into the summer. And with so much customization, having the option to make it ultra realistic or ultra fiction-like, can produce creative at this mass scale while still holding up your brand authority. It's like what I said earlier in the video about messaging. Like everyone has their own positioning. And if you have the right creative team behind these designs, you're not only able to maintain your brand identity while running high converting ads, you're actually able to amplify it as well. I'm gonna review exactly how we're actually able to make these creatives at scale and run these concepts profitable without wasting and burning tons of money on creatives. So at the beginning of the video, I did say that we were gonna review a system. And by system, this is exactly what I've meant. We built at this edtech startup with a sequence of internal steps. Half of this has some API calls intertwined into it. Most of the first half is human made. And I'm gonna break it down quickly so you guys can actually make it in your internal teams as well. So it starts off with your creative library. Like this is probably some Notion, or I recommend now, since it's so easy to vibe code your own database, I recommend you vibe code your own. And this is essentially where like all your creative data is gonna sit. So every creative that you guys make, static, video, everything sits in this creative library, indexed by ID and concept name. So this index data has multiple different fields. You have a field for how long the video was. You have a field for the angle, persona, and mechanism. You have fields for the hook. You have fields for the format. And this is the workaround we need to do right now because the AI still isn't like 100% accurate when it comes to reading video. And then we feed it the 4 reference documents. This is essentially the core documents that you make by hand before ever talking to any LLM. These reference documents are the core of your creative design work. And if they are done poorly, then every creative you have not only will sound like slop, will also look like slop as well. So it's very important that you take your time making these reference documents. So then when you have these 3, what you do is you take all of them and you feed them to an LLM via MCP. And when the LLM has access to all this data, it becomes very simple to create new concepts. Concepts turn into a brief, and then our creative team turns it into creative. Then we put it through our testing process, and then when it reaches a certain amount of capped spend, we throw it back into the creative library and index it with winner or loser tags. And the most important part is why it lost. So if I had a weak CTR, weak hook rate, weak conversion, it's all part of this indexed data file. So you essentially have a model that's constantly giving itself a feedback loop. And the way we saw it when we first built it was it's basically impossible for us to fail. This is built in a way where you're constantly improving the creative. And the only bottleneck we ever ended up having here was this. This line right here between brief and creative, your team is going to be very stressed in the beginning. So it's important that you not only have very talented creative designers in the beginning, but ones that are AI native. And not only that, they need to be copywriters before they are designers. If members of your creative team are designers before copywriters, you're going to catch them making a lot of edits that don't actually move the needle forward. Small changes like color grading, cutting out certain boxes, those changes won't necessarily drive more or less revenue. The most important thing when you're hiring your creative team is that they're copywriters first, they're marketers first, and then they're designers. If you have this full system set up like this, it is impossible for you to fail. The final takeaway that I want you guys to take from this video is not necessarily that there's like a one cookie cutter way of growing your mobile app or web app. Understanding that if you want to find the right messaging, so actually getting to that product market fit, then there are steps that you need to take that bring you closer to that position. And the steps that we on our team personally found that got us closer to that position of finding product market fit was actually putting marketing dollars behind our messaging to quickly find out what works and what doesn't. At the end of the day, with so many other companies coming out, pushing out great products and great marketing, there isn't really time to spend on marketing that isn't scalable. A lot of people think they need to be rich to spend money on ads, and this isn't the case. When my co-founder and I first launched our consumer app back in 2024, we started with like $20 a day in ad spend. After like 2 weeks of ad spend, we couldn't afford to keep spending at that rate because Apple wasn't sending us back the money. There were days where we'd literally turn ads off. Like midday, we would go back in the 2-week average and find out where our lowest converting times were, and we turned ads off on those times. So like, no, like you don't need to be rich, but like you will trench. And that's the main reason I actually ended up creating this channel, because at the time there's no information online about how to actually take your app from 0 to 1 with paid advertising. So if you're a founder and you're looking to actually take your software seriously, then drop me a follow and stay tuned.